Hi guys. Hi guys. Oh my god, welcome back to another episode. I've been dying to film, but I don't know, it's crazy because I'm pretty much just starting. We actually just finished filming a podcast episode on our mine and my husband's channel. On Casados Podcast. If you don't know, go look it up, subscribe, share, you know, do all that. Stay tuned with us. So today it's going to be a little different. It's always different, right? But I wanted to talk about being divorced at 18. I went through that. I sadly, but truth, that was one of the worst things I've ever gone through in my life. There has nothing been that's compared to going through a divorce at the age of 18, you know. Um if you if you've been through that, maybe not at 18, but maybe at 25, 30, 40, 50, 60s, I don't know. You know how traumatic and how painful that is. So I just wanted to talk about that because, you know, you might be going through that right now and you just want to know, you just want to feel normal again, or you just want to feel yourself again. And I just want to talk about my experience through that and what helped me to get through that, and become me again. And that's pretty much what I'm going to be, talking to you guys about, sharing a little bit of my experience and what helped me get through that. So as many of you know, back in 2013, let's backtrack. Back in 2012, I got married. I was just 18, turned 18. I got married to my current husband. So that's another story by itself. And we were in love. We were happy. We were planning a whole life together. You plan and you plan and you just want the future to be what you always imagined. A dream come true, a fairy tale, right? Especially being 18. I never thought I would have ever gone married or got married at all. That soon, especially 18. I think about it now and I'm just like, wow, what was I thinking, right? But when you're going through that emotions and you're in love, you're blind. You only think about that moment and what you're feeling at that moment. And you don't think about anything else but you and him, right? At least that's what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking what we were gonna do if, I wasn't working. I couldn't work. I'm a dreamer. So DACA wasn't a thing at that time. So he was the only one that was able to work. But I never thought about that. I never thought about what we were going to do to survive, if we were going to have food, if we were going to have a roof, how were we going to get to things, because we didn't have a car. All I thought about was love. If we have love, we have everything. And that was me at that time. That's what I thought at that time. Of course, if I could go back in time, and I've always told him this, if I could have gone in back in the day too, I've always said that. Ever since we went through that process of divorce, I said, if I could go back, I would. And I would definitely do it differently. Because yes, now I've learned, and that experience made me who I am now and made us who we are now. And we've never gone through that, obviously, but it's always something in you as a person that you would have done different, of course. And because you would have done it different, it's different experiences that you go through. Ever since, we got married back in 2012, July 28th, 2012, we got married. It was the best day of my life. It was a dream come true wedding to me. Not thinking anything, about anybody, not thinking about what everybody had to say, and not knowing that soon, not even a year married to my husband, we would have separated. And trust me, I had never gone through such a heartbreak ever. I just didn't know where I failed, I thought to myself, what did I do wrong? And I blamed myself for so long, for so long. I'm so sorry. I hate getting emotional, but I guess, it's therapy for me, because, you don't get to talk about your feelings often at all. So, yeah, I was blaming myself for so many years that went by, because I always thought I could have done better. I could have handled things better. But at that time, when we separated, I just said, you know what? He took the easy way out. He didn't fight for me. And not only feeling the guilt of thinking you could have done better, the other side of me was I had an example of a great marriage, of a faithful marriage, of an eternal marriage in my eyes, which were my parents. And I was so afraid of failing them and disappointing them. And I said, I would, they obviously had my back. I lived with them. Me and him lived with them at the time. And sometimes I couldn't be home because I just didn't know what to say. And I felt like a failure. Like I felt like I should have listened. I should have probably not gotten married. I should have thought about things, before going through all that. And this is what happens when you get married at 18. That was my whole mindset at that time. And of course, time passed, and it's crazy, but for like 2 weeks straight after he left the house, he walked out, and in back of my head, I always had a hope, like he's gonna come back. I know he is. And, I would call him, I would text him, and I would say, like, what are you doing? Like, just come back. And one time he did tell me, he was like, he was just like, like, I will never go back there. If I have to go back with you, we have to move out. And I said, okay, let's, like, I was just like, well, the situation, like, I couldn't work yet. Well, at that time I was already working. When we had separated, I finally had applied for DACA, and I got my life kind of together. But I was barely starting, so I was like, just think about it, like, just come back. And it's like, no, I can't go back. My pride, my pride was always the main thing, and so I begged him for maybe 3 weeks straight. I would go to his work, and he could testify to that. I would drive to his work. I would beg him to come outside because I want to talk to him, and I just didn't want to give up, and once that happened, I remember one day that marked me forever. And I think until this day, I make jokes with him and I said, well, you said that to me. And um I went to his job. It was lunchtime. And I told him to please come outside, that I wanted to talk to him. Like, let's have lunch together. Like, we'll go have lunch. Like, let's just talk. I just want to talk. And he said, okay, I'll be there. We ended up going to Jack in the Box. I still remember. And I was just looking at him and we were eating or whatever. And I told him straight up to his face, I was like, why don't you want to come back? Why? You got married to me for a reason, right? I was like, you just want to give up this quick? And he just answered and said, looking at me straight in my eyes, and he said, I don't love you no more. And I was just like, I couldn't process the whole thought of, I was like, just like that. Like, how do you go through a marriage, getting married, living together for a couple months, and then you don't love me no more? Like, how? Like, I don't get it. And I was hurt already due to being separated, And he said that, and I remember walking out. He left and I walked out and getting in the car, and and I said to myself, there's nothing more to do. Like, I have to let him go. Like, I just can't be living like this. Like, I have to move on. I can't force him to love me. Like, he doesn't love me. That was the only thing in my head. He doesn't love me. So I have to give up. I have to let him go. And yeah, we ended up blocking each other, and I knew that it was time to move on. And for a couple, my parents, they went through all that with me, and that's why I'm so grateful to them, because they never judged me, even once, ever. And I just said, it's a lesson learned, I guess, and finally my cousin Melissa, remember that we went, she had invited me to like a house party, and I said, I have never gone out. It was a long time after I gone out like that, So I was like, I'm gonna go out single. Like, that's crazy. And that's kind of when I started. And then obviously I started hearing things about him going out places and even already seeing girls. And I was just like, okay, like, that's what it is, like, he doesn't even have the respect. And that's exactly that moment when I found out he was already kind of seeing girls and partying with his friends. I said, that's what he wanted this whole time. So I'm going to give him the freedom he wants. And I started looking into divorce. Being heartbroken, felt like a failure the whole time. And feeling like I regret everything I've done. I still had to look for into divorce. And I remember filing, and I remember that when we were set to go into court, it was so weird because you would think I would be angry. You would think I would hate him. You would think that I didn't want to see him, but no. I remember walking into the court with the papers that I had to file, like I had to turn in and sign. And I walked in first, and I got there first. And yeah, I was sitting, they told me to sit down, then he walks in. And he goes into the window, whatever, the clerk. And then we ended up sitting together and like almost side by side. And we were talking like if we were catching up, like if we were best friends, like if we were just meeting up again. like best friends, like we never left each other. And I wish I would have felt hate or anything, or some type of like, I don't want to see you, I don't want to talk to you, don't talk to me. But no, I didn't feel any type of resentment towards him. I didn't. And I wish I did at one point, but I didn't. And so they call us to go into this room where you see like the counselor first. And the counselor told us, is there any chance of reconciliation or getting back together? And I was waiting, and like deep down in my heart, I was waiting for him to answer or for him to speak first and say yes or something, right? Because right before they were talking, and I still had hope, I guess. And he didn't say nothing. So I said, no, there's not. And then he goes, okay. Because majority of the, people your age, or, young people your age, majority of them go through this, and then years later they get back together. And I was like, no, that's not us. And we signed, we walked outside, and he still asked me to walk me to my car for some reason. I said no. Like, no, I could do it on my own. I could walk to my car. It's like, bye. And that was pretty much it from that time. And I knew when I got into the car, I was like, wow, it's done. We are no longer married, or we're no longer maybe getting together. I just, but even throughout the time that we were divorced, he always managed to text me, call me drunk or whatever. And I tried blocking him. I tried dating. Like, obviously I dated, and after that, and I went through all that, and I went through other breakups, and I went through, so many feelings, and I just always had a hope. That hope, I don't know why. That hope to one day get back. And people, and certain people would tell me, like, you're crazy, like, just leave him. Like, I remember one time my mom, she got mad because he would sometimes text me through different profiles on Facebook, or message me, and I would still talk to him, like, like I was still there for him. But I knew he was just not in the right state of mind at that time when he would text me. And I would tell my mom, like, he texted me, and she would be like, he's playing with you. Stop trying to make him be with you. Like, no, that's not okay. And during that time, my mom was baptized at church, and I knew I was not okay. I knew I wasn't okay. And she would tell me, you could go out, party, do whatever you have to do, but you're going to go to church on Sunday. I was like, okay, I'll be there. And yeah, I would not miss Sunday, because, oh my goodness, my mom would give me one to remember. And I would go to church. And then one time, I remember our late pastor at church, he started preaching, and I promise you, I felt like he was preaching to me, or like my mom had told him everything I was going through. And I was just like, Mom, why did you tell him? She's like, I didn't. God is talking to you through him. Listen. And yeah, I mean, there was a lot going on. You could call, I guess you would say depressed. I was sad. I was just very sad. And then at one point, I almost got married again. At one point, I got proposed to, and I said yes. But then later on, I said no. Like, I can't. I just didn't know what I wanted, and I just knew that was not who I wanted. And I just didn't know how to say no at that time. And so much happened, and finally, I decided to get baptized. God touched my heart. He helped me through everything. After I started going to church more and listening and actually paying attention and letting God deal with all my emptiness and all my burdens and just everything, I became different. I became a different person. I became happier. I had more peace in my life. And I just knew things were going to get better. And I have a aunt that goes to church too. And I remember she would always pray for me. And she said one time she was talking to me and she said, God will bring him back if it's up to him. It's up to God. God knows he's for you. He's going to bring him back. And I said, okay, we'll see if it's God's choice, if it's in God's plans. And she would always tell me that, always. And then one time, I just remember, things, a lot of time passed by. 5 years later, guys. 5 years later. More Christmases, more birthdays, more New Year's passed by. And finally, 5 years later, my current husband and me decided to get back together and try it again. And at first I just didn't know if I should have, or I was confused. I didn't know if that was the right choice. Still, I was thinking about it so much. I just didn't know. I was mad because I was like, why now? Why 5 years later? Why? Why not when I was begging you? Why not when I was showing up to your work? Why now? And never had an answer. Never. And I said, God, if you brought him back, please change his heart. Change him. And he knew I was baptized. He knew that I was into church. And, he said, I want to change. I want to be a different person for you. And I was like, I want you to be a different person for you. And obviously for me, I mean, if you're different, you're a better person. You're going to be better for me automatically. And that's what I wanted. And so all that happened. And finally, we ended up getting married. Because my mom, I remember saying, I told her about Eduardo. She was so mad. And she was like, look, if you're going to get back with him and you want to try it out, you're not going to just go move in and see if it's going to work out. It's been 5 years. You guys should know already. You guys experienced different things already. If you guys are going to get back together, it's because you guys will get married. You're not anybody's toy. And I was like, okay, fine. I was like, but I'm afraid that it's not going to work. And then I remember her telling me, like, if you have that doubt, don't try it out. Just move on. So I remember I decided I was like, I have faith it will work. So I ended up saying yes. We ended up getting married through court. And I said, again, we'll try it again. Until this day, it's going to be 6 years. 6 years? Yes, I want to say 6 years. In February. Let me see. Yeah, it's going to be 6 years. 6 years being married for the second time. And it's been, obviously, there's been times where it's rough. There's been fights, of course. Nothing is perfect. But you know what's different from everything that has happened between us and this time around is that God is in between our marriage. He's in our marriage. I let God decide for us. I ask God first if anything has to happen. I make God a priority. And yes, he might not be baptized, or he might not be into going to church as much as me or whatever. But I know he knows God is with us, and he knows God has helped us go through go through everything, and God has managed to work with me, with him, and I still have faith that one day he will accept Jesus, because I feel like God, without God, we wouldn't be here right now, and we wouldn't get past it. Maybe we would have been together, but maybe we would be, not happy, because I would probably resent him. I would probably bring it up all the time. I don't know. Yes, when people ask us like, what happened? Why did you guys separate in the first place? And I always say, it wasn't nobody being unfaithful. It wasn't him doing back and things behind my back. It was because we just couldn't communicate. We didn't know how to handle our fights. We didn't know how to give each other space. We didn't know how to handle the whole, being, when we didn't disagreements, we just didn't know how to talk and understand each other. And I think that has to do a lot with it, because I promise you that if maybe, if it would have been something that he did behind my back and maybe cheat on me, I don't know, and me finding out and that was the case, I would probably not be with him, because I also know myself, and I know that I would probably not be able to forgive something like that. But again, I don't know. Only God knows. And I ask God always to help us understand and guide us in whatever we do. And we don't have kids right now, but that's one of our goals is for God to grant us or gift us children, and we talk about all the opportunities there is, and we have open mind. We have an open mind for everything, and I think that's the best thing, and so far I think our marriage this time around is so much better. We've grown, we matured, we went through it. There's so much more, but that's a little bit of everything that happened during that time. And if you're going through that, if you are struggling with your marriage, just ask God to help. Ask him, invite him in your home, because he's not a God to just enter and do what he has to do. No, he will ask for permission first. He will knock before he comes in. He's a gentleman. He has manners, and he will ask before to come in. But if you don't let him, then he will just turn back, and that's all. So I would definitely say God has helped in our marriage 100%. I will never, ever, say it wasn't God, because I know it was. Until this day, I know it's him always working and doing what he has to do. So yeah, guys, this podcast was a little longer, and I just want you to know that if you ever feel broken, if you ever feel that you just can't get out of that hole, and whatever you're going through, just know that God is just pretty much, you could probably say, a word away. With you mentioning his name, he's there. So just know that. Just, if you've tried everything in this world, there's so much stuff you could try to make things work with your relationship, and nothing has worked. Try him out. Just try God, and trust me, he will make his miracles. He will work, and I truly believe that if it wasn't for him, my marriage, or maybe us even getting back together at all, wouldn't probably be happening, or would have never happened. So yeah, guys, again, thank you so much. I'm just sharing a little bit of my own experience and what I've gone through when it came to divorce, because you don't really hear, people talking too much about it, because it's personal. As you could tell, I was emotional almost the whole video, but it's just things that you carry with you sometimes, and you just, it's always good to share and talk about things when, you're feeling a little like too much, carrying too much burden, or just opening up. Just open up. There's nothing wrong with opening up. People will understand, the right people will understand. So again, guys, thank you so much for watching or for listening wherever you're listening at, either Spotify or on this YouTube video. And just stay strong. God is good always. So just know, guys, that I will be bringing a little bit more episodes of, more personal experiences, and I think it's a good therapy for myself too. And all I want to say is thank you so much for watching, staying tuned, and for listening to me, for taking the time to listen. And I hope this helps somebody, right? That's pretty much why I'm doing this. So again, stay strong. Don't give up. Bye, guys.